lights pierced through the darkness like twin beacons of hope, guiding me along the deserted highway. The night was thick with an eerie silence, broken only by the hum of the engine and the occasional rustle of leaves in the wind. I gripped the steering wheel tightly, my knuckles turning white with tension as I pressed onward into the unknown. As I rounded a bend in the road, something caught my eye. A figure standing by the side of the highway, barely visible in the dim glow of the headlights. My heart skipped a beat as I slowed down, my mind racing with thoughts of hitchhikers and roadside dangers. But as I drew closer, I realized with a jolt of fear that the figure was not human. Its form was twisted and grotesque, its eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. A chill ran down my spine as I swerved to avoid it, my tires screeching against the asphalt. I glanced in the rearview mirror, expecting to see the creature pursuing me, but there was nothing there. Only darkness and the faint outline of trees against the night sky. Had I imagined it? Or was it something far more sinister, lurking just beyond the reach of my headlights? I shook my head, trying to dispel the sense of unease that had settled over me like a shroud. But no matter how fast I drove, I couldn't escape the feeling that something was watching me, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. And then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the figure was there again, standing in the middle of the road, its twisted form blocking my path. I slammed on the brakes, my heart pounding in my chest as I stared into those glowing eyes, knowing that I was trapped, alone in the darkness with whatever horror awaited me. It was a dark and stormy night, the rain pounding relentlessly against my windshield as I drove down the deserted highway. The visibility was terrible, and my wipers struggled to keep up with the deluge. I was anxious to get home, but the storm showed no signs of letting up. Suddenly, my car jolted violently. I had hit something. Heart racing, I pulled over to the side of the road, the engine sputtering before dying completely. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped out, the cold rain soaking through my clothes instantly. There, lying in the road, was a deer, its body twisted unnaturally. I sighed in relief. At least it wasn't a person. I turned back to my car, but something caught my eye. In the woods just beyond the road, there was a figure standing motionless. My heart skipped a beat. Who would be out here in this weather? "Hey, do you need help?" I called out, my voice trembling. The figure didn't move. I shined my flashlight on it, and the beam revealed a pale, expressionless face, eyes wide open and staring directly at me. I felt a chill crawl down my spine. I hurried back to my car and tried to start the engine. It groaned but wouldn't turn over. The figure began to move, slowly, deliberately, towards me. I locked the doors, my hands shaking. The figure reached the driver's side window and peered in, its face inches from mine, separated only by a thin pane of glass. Its eyes were hollow, and its breath fogged up the window. My phone had no signal, and the rain continued to pour, the sound now deafening. I pressed the horn, hoping to scare it away, but it didn't budge. Instead, it raised a hand and started scratching at the window, the sound grating and unbearable. Desperation took over. I reached into the glove compartment for anything I could use as a weapon. When I looked back, the figure was gone. I scanned the surroundings frantically but saw nothing. Suddenly, a cold hand grabbed my shoulder from the back seat. I screamed and spun around, but there was no one there. My breath came in ragged gasps and my heart pounded in my chest. With a final, desperate turn of the key, the engine roared to life. I didn't look back as I sped away, the figure's hollow eyes burning in my memory. The storm eventually cleared, but the dread lingered, and I knew I would never forget the face that stared at me through the rain. It was a dare I couldn't refuse. Spend 1 hour in the abandoned Hawthorne house at the edge of town. They said it was haunted, but I didn't believe in ghosts. The house loomed before me, its windows shattered, paint peeling, and an air of desolation hanging thick. I stepped inside, the wooden floorboards creaking ominously under my weight. The air was musty, filled with the scent of decay. I shone my flashlight around the foyer, revealing tattered curtains and broken furniture. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the distant sound of dripping water. I moved deeper into the house, each step echoing through the disappearing without a trace one stormy night. I shook off the unease and entered the living room. The wallpaper was faded, and a single dusty armchair sat facing an old fireplace. Suddenly, a loud crash came from upstairs. My heart pounded as I gathered my courage and ascended the staircase, the banister wobbling under my grip. At the top, I saw a door slightly ajar. Swallowing hard, I pushed it open. The room was empty, save for an old cracked mirror on the wall. As I approached, the temperature dropped and my breath fogged the glass. Then, in the reflection, I saw them. Shadowy figures standing behind me, their faces twisted in silent screams. I spun around, but the room was empty. I backed away, but the figures in the mirror moved closer, their eyes locking onto mine. Panic surged through me. I bolted out of the room, down the stairs, and toward the front door. But it wouldn't budge. The shadows were everywhere now, closing in, whispering my name. Desperate, I smashed a window and crawled through, cutting my hands on the glass. I ran until I was safely out of the house, my breath ragged and heart racing. When I looked back, the house stood silent and dark. But I knew I was not alone in my terror. The shadows of the Hawthorne house had claimed another victim, and I would never forget their haunting whispers.